Today, we're speaking to Oleh Tiurin. Hello, Oleh. Thank you so much for having a chat with us today.
Hello, Barbara. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great honor and wonderful opportunity for me.
Oleh, right now you're in Kiev in the Ukraine, and I believe it's quite cold there. Is it minus degrees?
Oh, yes, Barbara. It's a bit, there is some snow in the street, and it's about -4 by Celsius. So yeah, for Kiev, it's a bit chilling because the level of the moisture is quite high here. So yes, it's quite cold.
So maybe we can draw a parallel to mediation situations where us humans are often in emotional states of either extreme heat or extreme cold, as is the case with our climate in this world. And that leads me over into the first question for you. I would love to know, as someone with a background in commercial and marketing directorships, how did you find the way to mediation? What made you get qualified as a mediator?
Oh, Barbara, thank you for this question. Actually, I first tasted mediation being a party. There was a dispute that lasted for several months, and it seemed to be an infinite one to me. And with the help of the third neutral, it was resolved just in few hours. And after this experience, I decided to learn mediation skills myself and use them at work. And actually, to be honest, to be frank, I'm a kind of a hereditary mediator. My mom is a mediator, and actually she recommended me the International Mediation Campus after participating in the IMC special program for non-English speaking Ukrainians, which she was delighted about.
Thank you, Oleh. It's wonderful that we were recommended by another mediator who happens to be your mum. Nice to be able to follow in her steps and to carry on with the lineage of mediation and conflict resolution. So you then did the IMC training, International Mediation Training with us. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the course? Was it a mixed group? Was the group dynamic? Did you maybe get to know new people, make new connections? What did you get out of this course that you remember today?
Barbara, from this course, I get friends, I get colleagues mediators with whom we are practicing till now. We have simulations, and I have very warm feelings of the safe and supportive atmosphere which was made by organizers and the group members. And I would like to mention that the IMC training is my first mediation training. So it is about the paradigm shift. So if your brain starts thinking as a mediator, there is no way back.
That's a wonderful parallel. I'm glad we got to give you the kickstart, because I see you now a family mediator, also a commercial mediator. What happened after concluding the IMC training? What did you do next to get into the practical world of mediation?
Barbara, the IMC training also inspired me to acknowledge how much I don't know and to deeply drill into the topic of mediation. After the IMC training, I understood that I want to know more about the specific of mediation in Ukraine, about the family mediation.
Do you feel ready to get started in a practical setup? Have you already started mediating? Do you want to talk to us a little about that, or are you still acquiring skills for now?
Oh, I'm practicing, Barbara, and I have cases in different fields. Actually, I started practicing during I was a deputy commercial director in a quite large manufacturing company. And the least half of my time before getting the mediator skills, I spent resolving conflicts between departments, dealers, clients, etc. And my cell phone was red of calls and messages, which started in the early morning and continued to the late night, no matter it was a workday or a weekend. And after getting mediation skills, I understood that I started communicating more effectively, and the decisions we found with parties, which based on interest and needs, were more sustainable and amicable. And can you imagine that I started to make concessions more rarely? And despite this, clients became more satisfied.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful to see, Oleh, right? That often with people who choose to go for official mediation training or ADR training, that they would often already have had some sort of interaction and experience with meditative practices. And I find it especially so in management roles. So where you just described, you have big teams, you're in a big manufacturing industry, conflicts are always there. It's about managing them and how to navigate them. How do you see this? I'm going to take you far away now from the workplace. You are in the Ukraine. Your country has been in a very difficult conflict zone. You've been invaded, and the situation is, of course, very different prior to Russia coming in. How do you see, has that changed the landscape of mediation in Ukraine? Are there now different needs? Have mediation in families or intergenerational conflict risen because of the situation? Or am I maybe completely off and something completely different happened? Please tell us a bit about the situation in Ukraine at the moment with conflict resolution for the people.
Barbara, thank you for this question. And actually, I would like to mention that since the August of 2023, I've been earning a living as a mediator. So I'm not a deputy commercial director anymore, and I'm practicing as a mediator who helps people to find amicable and both beneficial decisions. And actually, the last week, I participated, me and Olga, who is their managing partner of commercial mediation group, where I'm a mediator. We participated in the conference, the OSCE conference, about the peculiarity of the dialogue and mediation in Ukraine during the war. There we presented our experience of the project about the meeting between people from Shastia city. If we translate it into English, it would sound like happiness. The city, happiness city, yeah. And with the member of parliament of Ukraine. Unfortunately, this city is occupied now, and people are relocated all over the Ukraine and all over the world. And despite this, people need to communicate with each other and need to feel the support of each other. And very important, people need to feel that they are heard and that they are understood in how difficult situation they are now. And when we talk about the dialogue, about mediation, we should understand that a lot of people are in difficult situation. A lot of people were in difficult situation. And this experience, we should understand it and count with it. So it's about understanding that there can be trauma and be very, very gentle to the topics about the relocation, about being a refugee, and help people to feel heard and understood. And really, it's very important for people to meet their former neighbors who have the same experience. And sometimes it's even more important than solving some, in a short interest topic. It seems to people even more important than solving some economical issues. Because you imagine that when people left their homes, their businesses, their lives in the city which is occupied, for them it's very difficult to start living in new city where to be honest, nobody expects for them. Nobody's waiting for them.
Oleh, thank you so much for these insights from the OSCE conference a few days ago. And I think you're touching on the context of dialogue building, also as a foundation, right, to create a mutual understanding and to build bridges. You just gave us a nice story, not nice, but an illustrative story about people who have to flee their home, or they have to leave their home because everything's been taken or destroyed, and they become refugees in their own country. And a lot of consensus and understanding has to be built there for nation building, for peace building, and of course then to strengthen the economy and everything that comes with it. I hear from the way you talk about it that having the ear and, let's say, all senses to feel what's going on under the surface and to listen in and create a situation, a safe space where people can share their experiences is one of the traits of someone who mediates. What else from your experience would you say is important to have as a trait as a mediator?
Barbara, the safe area and the safe environment is crucial for people to be frank and to be honest and to feel like they can share what they really think and what they really want. And actually, I think that for mediator, there are a lot of skills, a lot of knowledge that are very important, and like critical thinking, empathy, ability to monitor your own emotions and to work them through, knowing the process, flexibility, mindfulness, ability to listen actively, paraphrase, summarize, reflect, ability to work deeply through interests and needs, emotional literacy, etc. And I think that the mediator is a kind of a specialist who combine these skills, and as one of the wise people said, that the combination is more than just parts. So mediator is more than just these skills. This is a professional who can listen, who don't judge, who can give empathy and be fully present in the process with people. Sometimes we have a discussion with colleagues about what we can count a success in mediation. And I had cases when one party wanted to enter the mediation process and another one didn't want to do this. And with the first party, we have a pre-mediation meeting. And after this meeting, party said that, now I feel much more transparency and understanding of the situation. I know what I really need and I know what I really don't need. And I know in what direction I should move now. And actually, you mentioned the speciality, the peculiarity of cases in Ukraine. Sometimes there are cases when one person, for example, it's a marriage, for example, a wife or a husband is abroad with the child, and a wife or a husband is in Ukraine, for example, with the child and or without a child. And in these situations, sometimes mediation is really a wonderful way to help people to save their marriage or to give them an opportunity to divorce amicably and peacefully and to pay attention to the interests of the child. And I had cases when people who lived in Ukraine, they moved to another country, they moved abroad, and this cultural difference is quite difficult for them. And the conflicts that didn't arise in Ukraine, they arised in Poland, in Czech Republic, in United States, because the culture is different, because the situation is much more difficult, because no home anymore, no job that was a basis of economical safety. There is a child who needs to be brought up and to be taught to go to school or to kindergarten or to the university, and people, they are so emotionally overwhelmed that they start thinking that the divorce is the only way out of this emotional trap. And even I had some conflict coaching, mediation. Somebody can call it a mediation with one party. I prefer to call it conflict coaching. When we walk through emotions, interests, and needs with one party, at the same time, we hypothetically work with the emotions, needs, and interest with another party without this party in the room or in the Zoom. And it really helps to save families.
Thank you, Oleh. In these conflict situations that you're describing, it's often the case, isn't it, that once they find a way to include a mediator in their midst, once they make the decision, be it through pre-mediation or right from the start, it is actually often the first time that all parties to a conflict can tell their stories without being interrupted, and to be able to take the time to share what's important to them. And given that, I would like to ask you, is there anything in this interview that you would still like to circle back on? Is there any time in this chat where I interrupted you perhaps and you still wanted to elaborate or say something more? Please do so.
Oh, Barbara, I think that you touched so interesting topics that it's really difficult for me to add something more interesting. And maybe I would like to mention a case, one of the recent, to explain how mediation can influence the situation between a marriage who are in Ukraine, and actually even staying at home, your own home today in Ukraine, it's sometimes a kind of a challenge because you have the electricity off, so-called blackouts, when you have to work but you have no opportunity, if you have no batteries or generator or some other ways. Actually, most Ukrainians do today. But sometimes it's frustrating, especially when there are little children who need to be fed by clock. There is an example of a case when a party contacted me with a request to help to divorce amicably. It's a family of 1.5-year-old child, and the party felt exhausted of the relationship and wanted to stop just being a husband and wife. And another party actually felt the same. We worked on a pre-mediation sessions. We worked through the first joint sessions, and on the second mediation joint session, a couple that sat before in different rooms and hardly managed communication between each other appeared in one Zoom window, hugging each other and telling that there is an issue with the second gadget, camera, but it's absolutely okay for them to start the meeting from one laptop. And in family mediation, we work in co-mediation in Ukraine. And actually, me and my co-mediator were quite surprised. And yes, we asked how much comfortable is for parties to work like this, so we can reschedule if there is a need. It's okay for us. And as the result of this mediation, after it seems to be 1 or 2 joint sessions, was that marriage heard each other. They understood interests and needs of each other. They understood how the situation looked from the perspective of each other, and they understand the interests and needs of the baby. They developed instruments which allowed them to communicate effectively and continue living as a couple in peace. The magic of mediation.
Wonderful. So nice to hear happy endings in mediation. Thank you for sharing this story. And Oleh Tiurin from Kiev, the Ukraine, a professional mediator specializing in family and commercial mediation with a broad background in marketing, sales, and commerce, and a wonderful understanding of what makes a human being. I thank you so much for your time that you've given to us today.
Barbara, thank you very much for your readiness to listen to my experience and this great opportunity to share how we can start being a mediator, even if it's not our first profession, if we have another background, and when being a thought neutral who helps others to resolve their conflicts amicably inspires you, even despite some fear to start in a new role. You do this and it really charges your battery and gives you sense to move and move forward.
Thank you, Oleh. Thank you very much.